Start recording. Start the music. Ladies and gentlemen, yes, I know it's Trails Music, but at this point, it's like, yeah. I might as well just do it like this. Sacred Stone's rating video. It's one of my favorite games. Trails is my favorite game series. Let's get on with it, shall we? So, Fire Emblem: The Sacred Stones. Our revisit to it. 9 sessions, NSO rewinds for cheats because every Fire Emblem game is going to benefit from a rewind feature. Because, like, I know some people say that, that rewind is ruining Fire Emblem. I don't understand those people. I really don't. So, make of that what you will. 111 on story. I think it was like 50 something on gameplay. Let me double check. Got a lot. I've got a lot of points. And 47 on gameplay. Excuse me. 111 on the story. 47 on gameplay. Let's get right into it. Brickwork, sprite work, music direction, and foreshadowing, banter. Enter NPC chatter. Enter gameplay story integration, pacing, in story sequencing, and Babylon 5 effect. All got a single positive each. Pretty self-explanatory. There's a lot of good music direction. There's some good foreshadowing. I enjoy the brickwork. I enjoy the sprite work. Blah, 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 blah. Banter in the form of the sports, or it's the NPC chatter for when you visit houses and whatnot. It's good stuff. Erica's route has some good internal continuity. I mean, honestly, enough said with that, really. Good use of the theme of loss, and not losing yourself in grief and desperation. Could also be seen as the triumph of the human spirit, so there's that. That is it. 12 presentation positives. Now let's get into the characters, because I really like a lot of characters in this thing. Erica is my personal second favorite lord in Fire Emblem, right behind Edelgard. Ike has been rising in my opinion of him. He's like at what I want to say like the 4th or 5th slot at this point. Yeah, no, Ike is 5th because I really like Chrom and I really like Lucina. But getting up to being on par with those ones. Actually, no, sorry, 6th. Sorry, Miss Miller. I forgot about Claude. Claude is actually number 3. Although he dipped below. I gotta figure out where the hell I'm placing him, actually. As it sits, Erica for sure. Second favorite. Right behind Edelgard. Triple positive for her. She's kind, and naive without being stupid. And that's okay. It's fine. Anyhow, where was I? Right. So I gave Seth 2 positives. I like how loyal he is. It's shown in spades, especially during the prologue. So, cool. 2 positives for him. Volter is interesting as a villain. Yes, he's one note. I don't care. I like my one note villains. Sometimes pure evil is great, especially when it's presented well, and I honestly think he is. A couple of moments notwithstanding. I like Franz. I thought he was interesting as a rookie eager to prove himself. King Hayden was very interesting in being stern but understanding. Garcia being a doting father is kind of cool. And he gets credit from me from not being overprotective. As soon as Ross says, no, I can freaking do this, Garcia's like, all right, cool, I'm in. I like that. Speaking of Ross, speaking of him being a dad, Ross, his son, young and brash, sure, but his no-nonsense attitude is very endearing, right? He's very blunt. These people need help. I'm gonna help them. We should help them, Father. Let's go. Good stuff. He likes Shemmy's shy personality. Reminds me of Bernadetta, honestly. Minus the recluse thing. Colm is interesting in that he is arrogant, yes, but he still cares, which is good. Speaking of arrogant, Lute is also arrogant, but more in that I'm awesome type of thing instead of being you are beneath me, which is honestly the form of arrogance that I kind of prefer. It's not that I am better than you. It's more of just, oh yeah, I'm awesome. I've got this, I'm awesome. Yeah. You know, that kind of thing. Larshall is comedy gold. I can honestly see why she's a fan favorite. It's plain and simple. She is comedy gold, plain and simple, and her later moments add to her awesomeness. Awesomeness. So there's that. Dazla. I'm horrible with a lot of these pronunciations. Dazla is kind of awesome in how loyal to Larshall he is. Joshua is my favorite character in the game. I'll just go ahead and say that straight up. I love his growth throughout the game, and assuming you pick Erica, if you pick Erica's route anyway, he had to split. And I honestly love how much depth there is to him. Natasha is interesting, as she shows that not everybody in the grotto is evil or blindly loyal to murderous psychopaths, which is kind of a running theme with a lot of the characters from Grotto, with one exception. Ephraim is awesome, and I really like his calculating nature, so 2 positives there. Lion is a fascinating character and is complex both before and after the start of the war, so that's good. Ines, or Ines, I don't know how the hell to pronounce it. He comes across as arrogant at first, and douchey kind of arrogance. But honestly, he has a lot of really great moments that flesh him out and make him everything that shit on is not. In other words, a good character. Selena is a wonderfully tragic character, even if I'm not a fan of how her story ends. We'll get there. Glenn is interesting as an antagonist. Calling him a villain is a step too far, but he is interesting in his hesitation. Cormac, his brother, is a great character and one that shows an interesting take on revenge. So, 2 positives for him. Calic is interesting in his demeanor and backstory as well. 32 character positives. Pretty good for a GBA Fire Emblem game, let's be real. Now it's time for the support positives. First up is Ross and Garcia's support chain. I did start ranking the individual rankings, but for some of them, like this one, it's just the chain itself. If I feel the chain is worthy of it, but not quite any individual rank, like with Ross and Garcia, for example. Emblem. It shows how much Garcia cares for Ross, Uh, and it all, and that it means Ross will not be coddled. Like the whole thing with them is that the being, like, I guess you could call it like plot of the supports kind of thing, is that Ross and Garcia are training constantly, and this kind of shows that, you know, Ross is not going to be coddled, but is also not going to be held back by overprotective douchebaggery. Right? Which is very, very good, and one that it is actually going to be a character arc for a father character later on. As I can really only name 2 really good fathers off the top of my head. And no, Grail is not on that list. I think he's a little too willing to literally break his son's back, so to speak. Coleman Nemi is a great support chain that shows that they really care for each other, so that's good stuff. I actually see it as it being a great foundation for a relationship, right? Then there's Joshua and Natasha's support chain, which is just gold. Joshua's betting, how serious things get in the A support, and all around, I gave the entire chain a full 3 positives. So, Erica and Seth's chain is interesting in that it shows how complicated a romance pairing the 2 up really is. I still think that's fine. I mean, if it's done well. And honestly, I think it's done well here. So, Franz and Amelia are interesting in their ability to bond over both being soldiers, and the idea that it eventually becomes romance is actually awesome to me. Tana and Cormag's C support. This is actually an example of Tana and Cormag actually got the most positives out of all the supports, because their C support got a positive, and then their A support got a triple. The C support is the only support rank up to that point that bypasses my usual judge the chain approach, as it is an interesting look into both characters. And I like that Tana's idea is not dismissed by Cormag, since it is a good idea, because the whole idea is calling out to each other when they spot the enemy kind of thing. And Cormag is like, that's actually, instead of dismissing it because it came from a woman, no. He's like, that's actually a good idea. Yeah. Good idea, Your Highness. Let's take it into consideration, right? Which is good, because it bypasses the usual irritations with that. And that's all I'm going to say on that front. Right. Then there's the A support, which is damn good too. And honestly, even better. Their B support is fine. I mean, it's just kind of there, if I'm honest. But their A support is where it's at, in my opinion. I love Tana's offer, and Cormag's response to the offer is just good. I finally see why so many ship these 2. And yeah, as such, it ended up getting a triple positive. I ship Tana with Ephraim, though the support is kind of not part of the reasoning behind that, because their support chain is kind of bad, if I'm honest. I don't think I gave it a negative, but I guess we'll see when we get to the negatives. It's been a while since I finished this stream, obviously, because I'm recording this during the East run, for the record, which is 2 games past this. Yeah, I'm a little behind. Coleman Marissa's support chain is interesting in that it provides insight into Marissa. Nemi and Garcia's B support is interesting as it helps expand the lore of Magvel in terms of one of its former legends. So there we go. And that brings us up to 55, which means the supports were 13. not too shabby. So now let's get into the moments. The prologue is a good opening, like how it sets up the story. I like the scene where Seth asks for Garcia's aid, and mostly because of the fact that Ross is the one to convince Garcia, like, no, we got to do this. If you're not going to, then I'm going to do it. Granted, it's mostly a screw you, Dad, I'm doing this. Yes, but it convinces Ross that Ross convinces Garcia that it's like, yeah, no, maybe we should do this. So, yeah, change my mind. Fine, I'll lend my axe. Let's go. Good stuff. Really good stuff, in my opinion. I like the flashback Erica has. The one where she asks Ephraim to teach her swordplay. Okay, good stuff. As it shows she is, which honestly is the biggest countermeasure to Awakening's DLC, Champions of Yore, I want to say. Hey, which is the first one. I did not write the name down, but I'm pretty sure it's the very first one, which I'm pretty sure is Champions of Yore. Or, she is not that stupid as that DLC would have you believe. I like the scene where Volter catches up with Ephraim, as it shows off Ephraim's character very nicely. Then there was the moment that made me like Ephraim. So Ephraim escapes captivity, then he hears his sisters walking into a trap, and goes right back to where he just escaped from, just to rescue his sister. Yeah, I had to give that a positive. I imagine some people might be surprised that I gave it only 1. I thought about it, but 1 feels, even now, 1 feels right for it. I really like the bridge chapter flashback, the chapter called A New Journey. Really like that flashback that they have in Seraphim. It's wholesome and a great dive into their past and their friendship with Lion. I like the scene that starts Ephraim's route, as it shows off why I like Ephraim as a character. Shows why I love Erica as a character as much as I do. It may be an excuse for us to only lose her as a playable little character on her brother's route, but honestly, I think it works all the same. So, I gave the intro a triple positive, which I chop at the route split. So that's cool. And then this is where I started putting positives with both of the routes. So I put Ephraim's route first, and if there's anything within the same chapter, it goes in Erica's route. Then it goes the same, the corresponding chapter in Erica's route. Then it goes after it, starting with Franz's version of recruiting Amelia on Ephraim's route is hilarious and shows that there are misconceptions aplenty. After all, Ephraim does not take female prisoners as slaves. I hope. Then there's Erica recruiting Amelia on her route, which is honestly a nice peek into both characters, which is good. Good. The Ephraim one, Ephraim recruiting Amelia is just there. Not good, but not great either. Not bad, but not great either. Then there's Tana recruiting Cormag in Ephraim's route, which is a great scene, and it is interesting that Cormag was defeated, as he puts it, not by a man's sword, but by a woman's words. Good stuff. I like the explanation of the Darkstone, which helps shed light on the changes in Viggarde, and helps foreshadow some stuff with Lion as well. Even if Ephraim's route will drop the ball on that. Then there's the scene at the start of Chapter 10 of Erica's Route where Ines fires Garrick and Tethys. And it is an awesome scene and nicely and quietly shows why I like Garrick and Ines both. Ines acts like a dick, but that's just it. It's an act. He actually gives a damn. And it is awesome. Listen, I was too harsh on the scene in season 1 of of the streams, and we'll rectify that here by giving this awesomeness a full 3 positives. The book's over there. I'm not gonna whip it out again, but I'm pretty sure I was like, I gave it only 1, if any. So yeah. Then there's the scene where Volter kills Glenn, which is very on Erica's route, which is really well done, as it shows Volter's madness and thirst for power, and shows that Glenn isn't as much of a blind idiot as one might expect. So, 2 positives there. Shifting back over to Ephraim's route again, and Selena's heart-to-heart with Mir here is awesome, and shows how complex a character Selena is and how wonderfully tragic things are in this story. This is a story of tragedy, and this is one of the scenes that wonderfully shows it off, even if I do absolutely despise what comes of it, but let's not get into that. Then there's the scene, back to Erica's route, there's the scene where Volter lies to Cormag about Glenn, and which is wonderful, and shows just how much Cormag cared about his brother, because he gets super enraged right after that. But we'll get to the result of that a bit later, because, yeah. Okay. As much as I hate recruiting him, the scene where Larshal recruits Renak is awesome, and it's a much better option than spending 10,000 gold on him. Yes, I know, it's technically 9,980 gold. But that's still too much goddamn money. Ugh. Then Ephraim confronting the confrontation with with Lion on Ephraim's route is that great scene, and is interesting when you realize that it is the Demon King speaking, not Lion. Then there's Noel explaining how Lion's campaign against Renas began, and it's a great scene that shows why this got started first place. Shifting back over to Erica's route, the death of Isamir and the reveal of Joshua being Johanna's prince is great, as it really shows the depths of Joshua's character and his demeanor after is, in my opinion, well handled, because he's still processing it after that point. Then when we get into the map, Joshua versus Kallik is awesome on in both versions, showing the connection between the two. And I gave a separate positive to that confrontation on Erica's route. I gave the confrontation in general a triple, but I wanted to give special praise to the Erica version. So there you go. Ephraim versus Volter is a great showcase of Volter's sadism and Ephraim's confidence. Erica versus Volter has gross implications, and it makes it oh so satisfying to end the fucker. Especially how it happened on my Ephraim route, where Erica literally declares that she is on a mission, and she promised her brother she would see it through. And then she ended Volter with a crit. Rejected, you sick fuck. Speaking of satisfying as fuck, Cormag versus Volter in Erica's route is the shining definition of satisfying. Cormag gets fantastic closure that almost makes Erica's route worth it for this alone, and as such, triple positive to that scene. Scorched Sand, the chapter. Where do I begin? in. Great dialogue, wonderful special battle quotes, and a map where I feel the intensity of the map that the characters are feeling. Fantastic story beats and a great feeling that feeling when I'm done earns this chapter after the full 3 positives. Yes, I was a little cheeky, but I'm not going to be cheeky in this rating video any more than I already have and will in later positives. And since this is the end of the route split, and while this may be a bit premature with chapter 18 and 19's changes depending on it, I cannot let Erica's route go without giving it all of the praise. Fantastic story beats, great insight into the Demon King, and best of all, not painting Lion as a target only to change their mind in a few chapters later. Yeah, Erica's route is the better of the 2 options, in my opinion. Then there's the reveal of Monica's corpse, which is chilling. It helps that they don't actually show you an actual illustration of her corpse, and so that way your imagination can just fill in the gaps. And that honestly makes it much more horrifying when you think about it. I also like the scene with the people cheering for Ephraim and Erica, as to me, as long as Ephraim endeavors to live up to his father's ideals, Renas will heal. I like the flashback at the start of River of Regrets. It's a good dive into Lion's character and adds to the tragic nature of it very nicely. I also really like the scene where Larshall explains that there is no saving Lion. It's well handled and is wonderfully tragic. It works in both routes, and Erica's despair being masked by her hope, and Ephraim vowing to end the Demon King to free Lion. Good stuff. 2 positives, 1 for each route. There is only one confrontation with Lion at the end of the Gorgon Egg chapter that I like, and it's when the Demon King tricks Erica, because that scene is just gold. He plays on Erica's fear here, says all the right things to convince her, and even denies us the power of friendship. This is what I call a good scene. Not that stupid fucking scene where Lion is like, I've broken free thanks to my rivalry with you, Ephraim. Now let me go and just continue to try and revive the Demon King because I'm a fucking moron. Despite that, though, Tana confronting Ephraim after his run-in with Lion on his route is way better than the confrontation itself. Tana is kind, compassionate, and helps encourage him nicely. I also like Larshall comforting Erica on her route after she is tricked by the Demon King, as it is well handled, and as Erica's despair honestly makes perfect sense right there. Then there's the scene where Ephraim encourages Mirror to let her tears flow, which is a good scene in my opinion, and shows that Ephraim does have compassion, even if his route does have a tendency to fail at showing that a lot of the time. The flashback that opens the final chapter on Ephraim's route is good at showing off the tragedy of Lion, while also highlighting the bad writing on this route. But the scene itself is well done enough to not let that diminish it. The flashback on Erica's route is wonderfully tragic and really shows what could have been. The power of love failing is why I consider Erica's route the canon route after all. Well, because let's face it, the whole breaking free because of a rivalry with Ephraim is, let's be honest, kind of stupid. Formodus' revival is kind of awesome in both routes, though I do like it better in Erica's route. Yet both work and thus earn a positive, of each, totaling 2 positives. Erica's "This is our final battle" speech, in my opinion, is way better than her brother's. It fits with her character and doesn't feel like hollow platitudes like his does. So 2 positives there. And then there's the ending, which I think is nice and well done, and even hints at Joshua being the prince if you pick the Ephraim route as opposed to the Erica route. I worded that badly. Erica's epilogue is a wonderful wrap-up of her character arc and honestly works for me completely. I like the farewells with Larshel, Joshua, and Inez better than in Ephraim's route. So full 3 positives there. I also like the post-credit scene which shows Lion meeting Erica and Ephraim for the first time. It's a beautiful way to cap off this wonderfully tragic tale and bring the game to a close before the character-specific epilogues start getting shown. Speaking of the said epilogues, let's get into them. I like Joshua and Natasha's epilogue. Makes me smile every single time I read it, as I feel it's a wonderful conclusion to their story. Ephraim and Tana's epilogue is honestly the reason why I ship the two, as it got a triple positive. It's wonderful and really works both with the epilogue itself, but also the in-lore implications. So, there you go. Thanks to my read on the characters, that's why it was a triple. I am also a sucker for the Princess marries her most trusted vassal thing, so Erica and Seth's epilogue is no exception. I also love the fact that it becomes a popular romance story within Renas after that. Something about that just made me smile. Erica's route has a fantastic outro, and I gave it a triple positive. Now let's get into the negatives. Oh boy, here we go. As you know, dialogue is way too rampant in this game. It usually doesn't bother me, but it just keeps happening, especially on Erica's route. It's kind of annoying. Yeah, that's it. Just the one presentation negative. Now let's get into the characters I didn't like. Orson. He doesn't work for me at all. His reason for betrayal is that he's gone mad, but we are never told how or why, except for his wife is dead and Grotto promised a reunion. Which any sane man would balk at, and there's only a throwaway line that hinted at it only for the game to give the reveal away far too easily that it just does not work. Then there's Renak, which is, honestly, I feel like he's just a waste of my time. Then there's Geb, who just suffers from bad timing. As he is a square peg in a round hole, as he is a dishonorable, misogynistic pig in a chapter that's trying to flesh out Grotto. Yeah, no, that doesn't work. He doesn't even have the entertaining creep factor that Reeve has to back that up, so doesn't work. Selena was a positive and a negative. At first, she didn't bug me, until I sat and thought about it and started comparing the routes side by side. Once I did that, Selena's actions felt wrong. I get that she is loyal, but she is loyal to the man Vigarde was, and he is no longer that man. Never mind the garbage in turning traitor, where she's a moron on top of that. We'll get there. Then there's Carlisle, who annoys the piss out of me, as he is a gaslighting piece of shit who is so stupid, is stupid and thinks with nothing but his dick. I really wish that was unrealistic. But it's not. That's it for the character negatives, just 5. There aren't that many supports that bug me in the series in general, but especially in this game, but Ephraim and Tana's B support is an exception, so I guess I did actually give Tana and Ephraim's support a negative. Just the B support for this one. None. It honestly feels like it should be what they discussed during the C support instead of the B. Yes, this being a B support is basically why it sucks, other than the typical oblivious protag romance nonsense. It's can I just have a protag Aku when a princess who basically is throwing themselves at them? They say, "Hey, can we save this for after the battle?" Ethel, romance must come second, I'm afraid. Ugh. Now we get into the moments. Volta relieving Selena in turning traitor. Hater can die in a fire for taking me out of the idea that Volta got taking me out of it with the idea that Volta gets away with going against Vigarde. Fresh reminder, he's not the one possessed by the Demon King. Then there's Ephraim's route in general, which bugs me more than it should, as it kind of feels like all the weak writing went to his route, as there are several holes in Ephraim's side of the story, and don't even get me started on Ephraim's big scene with Lion. Yet. And by yet, I mean right now. The scene that ends Chapter 18 on Ephraim's route is awful. This is his confrontation with Lion. First problem. Lion has been characterized as someone who should have been easy pickings for the Demon King, but wasn't. Just freaking cuz, in this route, because he was jealous of Ephraim. Fuck off. Second problem, the foreshadowing for this is being even remotely possible comes in at the start of Chapter 18. Which, by the way, everything before that point basically says, Lion is gone, that's the Demon King. Whatever. And finally, 3. Why is Lion continuing to resurrect the Demon King when he knows what will result? Yeah, no, seriously, 3 negative, triple negative for that shit. It's the worst scene in the game. And I thought that the shit on Ephraim's route worked with him, which I don't. Sorry, if I thought that the shit on Ephraim's route worked with him, which I don't. Okay, that I worded that badly. Let's reword this. If I thought that the shit on Ephraim's route worked at hinting at this, well, which I don't, I might actually like this scene. There. Had to reword it. And then Ephraim's outro also doesn't work for me. I didn't give his epilogue any negatives, or his ending, but the ending, other than the positive I gave earlier. But yeah, triple negative there. So only 15 negatives. That's pretty good. That is very good. Now let's move on to the gameplay now. First and foremost, music was 2 positives. Options were 2 positives, thanks to the animation options that are the same as in Blazing Blade. Tutorials are a bit hand-holding, but are not forced, simply because you can select normal and avoid them. Easy enough. Also helped by always having the guide there as a reminder, if you need those as tutorials. I gave a triple positive for the core combat. I gave the combat animations a triple positive. I gave the map design a triple positive. I gave the terrain design a positive. 2 positives for unit variety. A positive for interface. Encounter design was 2 positives. Positives. The enemy AI was a positive. Positive. The difficulty curve, curve and power progression curve were both double positives. Sound design. I love the tink on the no damage hit. Arenas, just as good as they are in Blazing Blade. Good gameplay story integration. Itemization was 2 positives. I felt it was well done throughout the game. While some say this should just be part of the itemization positive above, I honestly love the convenience of always having a weapon shop in the preparation screen, as that means you will never be completely screwed. It is especially useful in this game with the Tower of Volney and Lagged Out Ruins, which are multiple floor dungeons. Now you only get iron weapons from the in preparations thing, but it still works. Viscerality was a double positive. I gave a positive to enemy variety, a triple positive for pacing, and all roads lead to Rome game design positive. I love replaying this game, and the fact that this is the first game to have branching promotions bumped that up to 2 positives. I stand behind giving a full 3 positives to info in game, because it is weirdly amazing this time around. Hear me out. Weapon effectiveness, class utilization, tutorials, the guide always being available, pop-ups that inform you of things throughout the game, etc., etc., etc. All of this means that discovery is around every corner, and there is very little that you are left in the dark on unless the game wants you to discover it for yourself. For example, how to recruit characters, which is usually pretty straightforward anyway, or stuff like that, you know? I like the Tower of Volney and the Lagged Out Ruins. I thought those were very good optional dungeons. I like the visual distinction as well. 47 gameplay presentation positives. Individual maps. Here we go. Chapter 5, which apparently is easier in the international releases with Joshua's behavior on not attacking Natasha, so that's awesome. Chapter 5 Gaiden is an interesting limited resource challenge. I actually find it pretty fun. I like Chapter 7, Heaven, fun and interesting gimmick. Chapter 8 has an awesome name and is a fun map with some great rewards. It's a meme! There we go, got it out of the way. The route split is kind of awesome at offering more chapters without making the game a slog. Hey, you listening to this, Radiant Dawn? No, you're just sitting there being dumb? Okay. Well, screw you too. I gave the intro on the gameplay axis a triple positive. I honestly really like Ephraim's route, Chapter 10 of Ephraim's route, Turning Traitor. Revolt at Carcino is an interesting rescue map. That's the one where you get Ainz, by the way. That starts with that great scene. Chapter 13 on Ephraim's route is interesting as it as a challenge and has some great rewards, especially if you have a thief to steal the red gem and Speedwing that are on that map. Pretty sure that's the Selena map, by the way. Okay, so yeah, I thought it was good enough to warrant 2 positives. Hummel Canyon, Erica's Chapter 13 is a fun and challenging survival map. Chapter 14 on Ephraim's route is well designed and has some fantastic rewards. Chapter 14 on Erica's route has some good rewards, and sure, there are a lot of reinforcements, but they are finite and are strategically placed to be challenging rather than fuck you very much. Much like Chapter 12 on Erica's route, Village of Silence. Scorched Sand on Ephraim's route got a double positive on Ephraim's route and a triple positive on Erica's route. I actually had more fun with it on Erica's route, but it was an awesome map. It's my favorite map in the whole game. Absolutely worth those 5 positives, excuse me. I like River of Regrets. I thought it was a fun little chapter that doesn't last long and is relatively easy to save all the river folk, thanks to the starting position and the rescue mechanic. Two Faces of Evil is fun, and the eggs hatching is slow enough, and the order that it happens in makes sense as it's not all at once. So you're not going to be fighting a whole bunch of gorgons unless you let those eggs hatch. Have a couple of flyers, and you should be good. Last Hope is a really good survival map. Yep, I thought it was pretty cool. And definitely possible to clean sweep that map, which is awesome. I enjoyed the floor 6 of the Lagged Out Ruins for the splitting up of your forces, and I liked floor 10, which in my opinion is the absolute hardest map in all of Sacred Stones, and properly so. You will be tested even with maxed out characters, and I love it. Triple positive there. You need effective weapons for that. I think the outro is excellent on both routes from a gameplay perspective, so triple positive there for a total of 77 positives. Next up, the gameplay negatives. Can't have the good without the bad. I like simple tutorials, but hand-holding ones, not so much. The Lord fails state. This is the leader dies game over thing. Yeah, I'm still not a fan of it. Support conversations are limited to 5 ranks per playthrough. I hate this mechanic, and I'm so glad it left when the GBA era ended. Things being stolen from you in older Fire Emblem games is always a pain, as if you defeat the enemy, you don't get the item back. Which, honestly, I think is just... It's better in later stuff when you can just kill the thief and get the get whatever they stole from you back. Legendary weapons breaking. Triple negative. I hate this mechanic. It can go away. Fog of War. Negative. And while I stand behind the triple positive to info in game, there are a couple of walk-to-rightus points, such as the secret shops and items like the Métis Tome. Yeah, bit of walk-to-rightus there. Heals having a targeting issue. Example is Garcia had 1 point of damage, and he was on one side of Natasha, while Amelia, who was on the other side of Natasha, had 11 points of damage, and Natasha's default target was Garcia. See the problem here? Yeah, I thought so. Poison Fetish, especially on Erika's route, later on in the game. RNG is okay for the most part, but some of the hit rates are a joke and feel lopsided, as sometimes your hit is through the roof, and other times not so much. Still better than N-Gage's tendency to have me miss 90s and let the enemy hit with 30s. God, that's still a pain, but still could be worse. Also, not a fan of soft reset not reseeding the RNG. I get it, but it's still irritating. 14 presentation negatives for gameplay. Or 15, excuse me. Now let's get into the chapter negatives. Chapter 6. Hate that Fog of War gotcha crap. Ephraim's route increase in difficulty you're not warned about it until you save the game. What the hell? Chapter 11 on Ephraim's route, Phantom Ship, is an irritating fog of war that leads you by the nose. It was far too much for my liking. I can't believe I'm doing this in the middle of the thing. I am going to try and race to the washroom. I will be right back. Okay, need to make sure I'm still good. I'm still good. Okay. Whew. Sorry about that. So yeah, the Phantom Ship, another Fog of War map that leads you by the nose. That was far too much for my liking. Chapter 12, landing at Teisel is no better header as the massive amount of reinforcements on turn 2 is just mean and makes the map have more of a slog. And that's on top of the hoops one must jump through to recruit Marissa. Ugh. Yeesh. It's much easier on Revolt at Carcino. Village of Silence, Chapter 12 on Erica's route can die in a fire. Narrow passageways, enemies on mountain terrain, which really buffs their frickin' evasion, and reinforcements that are based on progress instead of turn count. Yeah, not a fan of this map, triple negative. Yeah, triple negative. If there weren't two ways of recruiting Ewan, his recruitment would be a separate negative as well. But there are multiple ways, so meh. I gave a negative to spending 10 gold to recruit Renak, which is because I feel it is really dumb and like, why is this even an option? If spending that gold got you some bonus, or if Renak was a good unit, he's mediocre at best in my opinion, then it would be worth it. Since neither are true, going through all the trouble is not worth it if you aren't using Larshall a lot. Then even the free option has all the issues given the maps you recruit him on. So, yeah. Ruled by Madness. I have never liked that map. It is sloggy, and it punishes you for being underleveled. Leveled hard. If you don't have mostly promoted units by this point, then good fucking luck. So it takes until practically the end of the game for your lords to promote. Yeah, no, that sucks. There are literally only 5 chapters and then the post-game left, and frankly, without a New Game Plus, promoting that late is not enjoyable for me. Blazing Blade avoided this because there are like 8 chapters left when they promote. Like when the main lore promotes, there's like 8 chapters left, and I think it's like 1 or 2 chapters before that you can promote them to, or I'm thinking of a different thing, and it's actually a couple of chapters. It's like 6 chapters left after when the main lord promotes, but I could be wrong. Regardless, yeah, no. That late in the game? No. Lagdo Ruins Floor 5 is everything I hated about Chapter 30 of Hector mode of Blazing Blade, including the thieves and tight corridors. Yeah, Chapter 20 isn't the worst map anymore. Or this is because, yeah, I actually thought Chapter 20 was the worst initially, and then I got to Floor 5 of Lagdo Ruins. Yeah, no, screw that nonsense. And then Floor 8 of the Lagdo Ruins is kind of annoying with the disappearing pathways. That was only a single negative. And Darkling Woods actually got only 1 negative because, well, Lagdo Ruins Floor 5 exists, really. Darkling Woods is still a terrible, sloggy, and boring map with reinforcements galore, and frankly I feel it can fuck off. I only made it look like a joke because several of my characters by that point were max level with some maxed out stats. So 30 negatives total. So there we go. I almost got through all of that without needing to run off to the bathroom, but there it is. Thankfully, I didn't spend too much time in the bathroom. Oui. But yeah, that is Sacred Stones' rating video. I highly recommend Sacred Stones. I love Sacred Stones. It's a great game. Go play it. It's on NSO. There's not much else I can say. until next time, Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. The next one is Dio Field. I don't have time to record that right now. That'll wait until next time. Later.